Hi, welcome to Sidewalk Talk. I'm Steve Fortunato, founder of Shovel the Sidewalk, a marketing firm in Buffalo, New York. We work with small businesses, help them create their brands and their advertising, and we utilize authentic storytelling to help them get their stories out there. And today we are really blessed to be joined by Molly O'Malley Pittman. She is the owner of Sweet Charlotte's, a children's activity center and preschool. And you don't have one story, you have like 5. So, and they're all really important, and I really appreciate you for being here and wanting to share your story. So before we go into stories 1 through 5, I actually have a 6th story, which I just found out. You used to be in real estate, and we're in the Shovel the Sidewalk International Headquarters in Clarence, New York right now. And you used to work out of here.
I used to work out of here a very long time ago.
How cool is that?
Very cool. I really think it's very cool.
So you were in real estate. So this episode was meant to be, I guess.
I believe it was.
So you were in real estate right in this building.
Right in this building.
Signed a lot of contracts.
Right on this table.
Well, probably a different table.
Similar table.
Yep. This is actually an old living room table. It's
very
a great
cool.
conference room table.
Very cool.
Okay, so you did that and you enjoyed real estate. I'm assuming you did it for 10 years. Let's talk about Donovan. Is that when did you decide real estate wasn't the situation, wasn't for you anymore, and you moved into owning your own business? Is that how it got there?
With a couple steps in between.
Okay.
I did sell real estate for about 10 years, and I did thoroughly enjoy it. It was a great time in my life. Newly married, and I'll just paint a picture for you. How about that?
Yeah.
I was doing an open house, and Donovan was just about 18 months old, 19 months old.
Donovan is your son?
Donovan is my son, and Charlotte was just a baby.
Okay. Charlotte is your daughter?
Charlotte is my daughter. They're 22 months apart. And Donovan we're in a lovely home right here in Clarence, and Donovan has got his hands all up on somebody's china cabinet, and I'm trying to feed a baby and welcome in people into an open house, and it became real apparent really quickly that I wasn't going to be able to juggle a full-time real estate career and being the mom that I needed to be.
Okay.
So
that puts you in where you decided you're going to mom first, which
mom
I'm
first.
assuming it was anyway.
Yeah. Well,
right?
I looked at it as kind of a blessing, because when Donovan's diagnosis of autism came very shortly thereafter that scenario I just described, it was kind of a blessing because it was a no-brainer. It was mom first and foremost.
So, and this is where the story, this is where the story led to the business, and we'll get to that in a minute. So Donovan, around 2 years old, diagnosed with autism.
Correct.
What did that mean to you? Did you know anything about it?
Nothing.
Were there signs when he was 1? Why was it when he was 2?
Well, it was when he was 2 because we were very fortunate that we had people in our lives that were in special education, and most significantly our pediatrician, who was a family friend. Donovan was developing as what you would consider to be neurotypical, normal, what we all look for in the appropriate milestones. And one day it just flipped like a light switch, and any of the words that he had were lost. Eye contact, somebody had described it once as he was marching to his own tune, and that was it. He just became removed, and he wasn't part of our world anymore. So it was a real serious red flag, and again, another blessing in that we knew something was wrong. And there was no real reason for it. No illness, no vaccination, no trauma, no change in our lifestyle. It's regressive autism, so
what does
it's
that
unique.
mean?
It means it started out, again, just as I said, as being very typical, and then there's just a pivotal point where they regress. And that diagnosis was always there. He was born with it. Nothing really changed. It just presented itself as needing that label and needing that diagnosis.
I'm assuming it's different for every...
Different for every single child. I mean, if you think about children on the whole, all of them are so unique in who they are as individuals. Autism is no different. It is a spectrum disorder, very different for every single child.
So here you are, the typical American family. You have it all, and then you find out your child has autism. And as a mother and the type A personality that you obviously are, what happened? What happened to you, your husband? How did How did you deal? That's a tough thing to deal with.
Yeah, it was tough. I mean, we did not have to go through the process that a lot of families have to go through initially because of our relationship with the pediatrician. And in coming to him and saying, hey, this is a fear, this is a concern, it was an automatic, yep, you're right, you know, and I'll never forget, and I have it, excuse me, writing autism on a script. This is the label, this is the diagnosis. That was a gift, because that meant help please, I need help please. And so in that type A personality and knowing that we needed to do something, it was making sure that we had all the connections that we needed in place, and we were able to secure his first therapy the day after his second birthday. And I reference that all the time.
So, all right, so what's his, it led also, you're an author, a book, I want to get to that too. What does he, now he's 16.
16.
Talking was a problem. What is it still a problem? Explain the process of what's happened from there until now?
Sure. First couple years were very scary. We didn't know that he would ever speak. There is a high percentage of children with autism that do not speak. And you know, we're talking about 14 years ago that he did secure that first lesson, that first therapy in his life, and it was our entire life for a good couple of years, 2, 3, 4 therapies a day, then a center-based program on top of 2, 3, 4 therapies a day once he got home. So it was intense. And there were very few moments where we really felt confident that he was going to find his words. For a very long time, we really knew that it was going to be a miracle if in fact he did. And he did at the age of 5.5, almost 6. And that's really where the business aspect kind of came into play. We really credit his sister Charlotte with being that influence and really getting into his space, getting into his face, and forcing that sibling peer interaction during play. You know, a little bit different than when you're supposed to work or perform for an adult who's, you know, sitting you down and making you work for it. And it's all necessary part of the process. But my husband and I created a puzzle piece shaped lollipop to help support autism awareness. We used it as a fundraising tool, just a way to kind of speak to others about that hope, about that fight, about becoming empowered and advocating for your children, no matter what their label or diagnosis is or isn't. So, you know, the business was just kind of an accident, if you will.
Well, that's so. Charlotte, so what, if I'm hearing you right, you're giving a lot of credit to Charlotte to helping him, because what she had, I read somewhere, or maybe I heard something, where she was asking you why doesn't, I tell him I love him and he doesn't tell me I love you back. Yeah. And that's where mm-hmm. I'm assuming that's where love without words comes through.
That's correct.
Comes through. And so explain that, how'd that come about, and how old was she when she was saying that? You know, she was younger.
She was younger, yeah. She was probably around 4, maybe 3.5, 4 years old, and it was troubling for her. I mean, you know, she wanted that again. She wanted that peer interaction. She wanted that big brother, and she was part of it from day one. And every therapy and every lesson, you know, going to the preschools, going to the doctor's appointments with me. So she tried to wrap her little mind around it, but it was difficult for her. So yeah, it was that simple of a question. Mom, I'm telling Dom and I love him, and he's not saying he loves me back. And I had to think very quickly on my feet, and we were in the kitchen, and my dog was in front of me, my chocolate lab. And I said, well, you know, Makio loves you. He brings you his toy, he licks you on the face, you can take him for walks, and he doesn't have words. And at that very young age, she asked me if Makio had autism. And, you know, I mean, it was really sweet, but it was really clear that it was about how we show one another that we love one another, that it wasn't about words or no words. It's in our everyday actions that we show each other that we love each other and care about one another. So the book in its very infant stage was really just meant to be a keepsake, was meant to just go into their, their boxes that I have set aside for them when they're older and just say, look, you loved each other once, and they still love each other now at 14 and 16. But yeah, it evolved in a way that I never expected that it would.
Yeah, it's really cool. And you were telling me earlier that, so you took a bunch of photographs, family photographs, laid them out, because it's illustrated. It's really, really well put together and well written. But the actual illustrations are from photographs that you and your kids and your family had laid out, and then you guys kind of picked the photos that he would illustrate.
Correct.
That is cool. So that way, the kids were involved in the book itself. Yeah. I've never written a book. I'm not an author. I envy you. I appreciate it, and I know this is hard work. When those books arrived, what was that like?
Better than Christmas. A surreal experience. Truly a surreal experience. Because it is a story that should be, and I hope will be, shared with as many people as possible, because it's not just about autism. It is about that unconditional, unspoken love. But this is our story. These are our babies. These are our moments. And so to see it come to life and to be able to speak to it and have it be so well received has been awesome. And that's actually why we chose to have the illustrator involved in taking those photographs and drawing them so beautifully. And he's a local artist as well, Jeffrey Perdziak, so that families like your own could look at these images and hopefully relate that maybe you went fishing with your kids or hung out on the hammock in the backyard. So having that come to life, pretty cool. Yeah,
that's cool. It really is. It's a book for all. The reason I know about it is, it made my wife cry when she read it. But it's really well done. Let's get to Sweet Charlotte's now. Obviously, Charlotte had something to do with the name of the business.
She did.
Now, did you do that? I mean, I would assume, like any parent, when if your child is sick, right, you go, oh my gosh, we got to fix that child. All your attention goes to it. In a situation with autism, you said, you dove in head first. You had to go for it. You had to figure out what to do, what's best for him. How did you, as a parent, consciously also provide that emotional support for Charlotte at the same time?
Just crediting her, just thanking her, just the positive reinforcement, as she really does love. I mean, she is just the most empathetic, caring little creature with all human beings and animals. But it really was about creating something that was just for her. And as a very young girl, we got her involved in dance. So that was very special for her. A lot of mommy and me type trips. But the lollipop, the story behind the lollipop is that he had a speech therapist who would come to the house and give him a little citrus candy or a little lemon or a little warhead spray. I mean, you think about drinking a glass of orange juice in the morning, it kind of like awakens your senses and you get ready to learn, you're attentive. So it was an orange flavored lollipop, and we gave Charlotte the name. That was the origination of the business, was the lollipop named Sweet Charlotte's, to credit her.
So what made you want, how did you decide, well, I should have this school, I should put this
into what it is now?
Yeah, how does that happen?
Yeah, organically, because it definitely was not my dream. It really wasn't. I didn't even, not because I don't love every second of it, please don't misunderstand, because I didn't think about it before it happened. I happened to be driving past the building that I am now in Clarence. I live out in that direction, and a gentleman that I actually sold real estate with, right here in this office, had his name on the property, and I called him and said, hey, what's going on over there? And he said, well, what'd you do with it? Well, I really didn't know at that time. And I had to make sure that it was personal, and I had to make sure that it was purposeful. And so I went back to those couple of years of my early parenting, and I wanted to fill the void of what I did not have. And what I did not have was a place where both of my children can go at the same time and be safe and comfortable and loved and nurtured and celebrated. And so at that point, selling the lollipop, and my husband's working 2 jobs to make ends meet and that I can continue to do what I'm doing, I couldn't take the name away from Charlotte, right? I had already had somewhat of a presence or a voice in the special needs community, and so it had to evolve and it had to have that same name.
So, I mean, this is for all children, because
All children.
It's not just special needs children, anything like that. And you have, I don't know what they would be called, but teachers there? Did you, so how big are we talking now? How many kids do you have going there? How many different professionals
So from
are
the
there?
play space that opened up 7 years ago, we started our integrated preschool program. It'll be going on our 5th year. And in that preschool program, we have 38 children, and we have a third of them that have the need for services and supports. So we work very closely with the districts surrounding in the area here, primarily Clarence, some Williamsville, some Lancaster, Akron, that work to orchestrate all of the services that they need right there out of the school. I have a wonderful team of passionate, beautiful women who do things that I'm in awe of every single day, and that number is 10 now.
That's a lot.
It's a lot.
So look, one of the things you did tell me before is I mean, to me, you're an autism expert, but you're not professionally or legally an autism expert. You're an expert because of your life experience with it, right?
Yeah.
What would you say, what do you want to say to a parent who maybe their child was diagnosed recently, or maybe they're in that 1 year where it's that battle and they still don't have it grasped yet? What do you want to tell parents?
That it's hard. That it's hard, and you're going to have to own the fact that it's really hard. But it gets better. It gets better every day with the right services and supports. So you have to take that energy that can sometimes be negative and daunting and overwhelming, and you need to work really, really hard to have that translate into empowerment and a fight. And it doesn't have to be a fight where, you know, it's ugly or angry, but a mission. And that mission is to get as well educated and as empowered as you possibly can, because in that you will see miracles. And you do need to believe it. You do need to hold on to hope. And it can be the smallest of moments, but in having a special needs child, you celebrate those moments like you've never celebrated anything before in your life.
What's inspiring to me about you and your stories is how you turn everything into, I don't know if it's into action or a mission, or like you turn a negative into a purpose. You know, if this wasn't enough, and it's a lot for a lot of families to deal with that, you know, the Huntington disease is something that's in your family. You've lost 11 family members to this disease. It's an awful disease and it's terminal. There is no cure. I know you've lost siblings, you've lost nephews or nieces, you've lost...
I've lost nieces, cousins, my father, uncles, aunt, grandmother.
I mean, you've been dealing with this your entire life then.
Yeah.
I mean, really. The little I know about the disease, I guess it's different from everybody, but right, you may not be diagnosed until you're 20
30s.
or 30, right? It doesn't
There's Huntington's disease, and then there's juvenile Huntington's disease. Okay. And so I've seen it work both ways. My father was 44 when he passed. He was in his 30s when he was diagnosed. I have a sister who was 24 when she died, so she had juvenile diabetes.
Juvenile Huntington's.
Huntington's, excuse me.
Yeah.
I have a little girl with juvenile diabetes in my preschool program. My mind might have gone there, I apologize. Juvenile Huntington's disease. She was 24, my brother was 32. The brother that I lost this past April was 43.
Yeah.
So
what does that mean so it's in the blood somewhere, it's going to be,
So my
right?
dad was one of 7, 5 are gone. And
One of 7, he was one of 7 children.
Mm-hmm.
And so 5 of the 7 children
Correct.
passed from the disease?
Correct. I am one of 5, and having lost those 3, there is myself and my sister. We are both okay. We do not have the disease. We will not pass it on to our children.
So the testing, they weren't diagnosed till their 20s or 30s. Can you be diagnosed at 50 and 60 and 70, or no? Could it still come? How do you know you won't have it?
Well, you can go and get tested.
So you constantly get tested?
No, if you don't have it, you don't have it. I'm sorry.
I see.
Yeah, to better answer
so
your
once
question.
you know, so you could have
if you
been
don't-
tested when you're 3, and they know you're gonna, but you
Correct.
might not. It might not come out until later.
If you're either born with it or you are not.
Got it. Okay, let me ask you. This is a tough one. I'm sure you've been have people talk to you. I mean, you decided to move forward and have children. Was there a chance that that disease could be passed on to your children?
Sure was.
So, what was the thought process with you and your husband? Did you talk about it before?
Yeah, before we got married, we actually talked about not wanting to have children for different reasons. But we wanted to be selfish. We wanted to travel. We wanted to do life. And we both came from large families and were blessed with nieces and nephews and thought, we'll just spoil them. It wasn't until Katie died at the age of 24 and we had been married for 2 years that I decided that I needed to have children because life is that short and that I needed to love. And none of us have any guarantees, not a single one of us. So, we all have plans. And that's all well and good, but you have to be flexible and know how to adapt, and that's what we did. My desire to live life and to not deprive myself of the beautiful thing of having children, it just trumped any old thoughts that the old Molly had. And honestly, the question has been asked year after year and time after time. I hear it come back up again, and it's, why should we have been deprived, right? My parents chose to have us. They didn't know it was a crapshoot. They would have never known that they were going to lose. My dad passed before anybody, but they wouldn't have known that they were going to lose those 3 children. But as tragic as it has been, like which one of us would they not have had? And losing them at the young ages has been devastating, and we're forever changed. But man, I'm so glad that I had them for the time that I had them.
Is your mom?
My mom is here.
So how is she? I mean, she's lost 3 children. Losing 1 is enough.
Yeah, it's devastating.
Yeah. So how? But now this is what I mean about you take something and you turned it into like a positive and a mission. A lot of people would look at it and say, "Oh my gosh, you've lost 11 people. You've lost 3 siblings," but you just turned it around. Is that conscious? You just turned around and said, "But if I never had them in the first place, I would never had the opportunity to love them and know them and be with them and learn from them."
Yeah.
Is that? I mean, that's not natural to me. Yet that took some thought. Did you purposely go that way? How do you do that?
I have to. It is physical. Like I can feel kind of a transformation when I am answering your question in that way. I can feel the energy. It's survival. I mean, I really look at it like it is black and white. I am either going to stay in bed every day, all day, and woe is me, or I'm going to do something. And being around tragedy and loss and challenge for most of my life, I feel like, I have to have a purpose here. I have to have a purpose here. And so I'm going to opt to live my life. And you know what the reality of it is? I have 2 children who need me, and I have a husband who needs me. And so I can't take away from their life by choosing not to live mine, right?
Yeah.
It's just a choice.
And now you have all these kids too.
And I have all these
kids.
kids.
At the school.
I have all these kids.
Are you going to write more books?
I would love to write more books. I would love to have more conversations. Yeah, I'm going to write more books.
Good, you should. So those kids, those families need you too, right?
Yeah, you know what? I've got the greatest job in the whole wide world, and it's so cool. It's really, really awesome to be Miss Molly and to be in a place where I can welcome in children and families and feel like I may just be making a difference and I may just be the luckiest woman in the world.
All right, so a lot of people are in pain, whether it's mental or physical, whether it's their own physical pain or a loved one's pain. I seriously, people could say, well, look at her. I mean, look what she's going through and what she's gone through. Another piece of advice from you, what can people do? How can you help someone that is going through real difficult times? What's your advice?
Yeah, so I mean, it's easier said than done, right? I mean, my mind automatically jumps to find your purpose, but sometimes that's hard because I didn't know that what I'm doing now was going to be my purpose. But it's finding that morsel, and it can be a morsel of what makes you happy. What makes you happy? So for me, it was my family. And it started with, how am I going to help Donovan? And how I'm going to make sure that Charlotte doesn't get lost in that? And how am I going to make sure that I'm still a good wife through the whole process, right? So that love of my little family of 4 was my morsel. And then it just kind of evolved. I tell my children every day, you can have the lousiest, most miserable, horrible day, but something was good. One thing was good. Today, this is my morsel. Today, this is my good. I'm going to leave here feeling like $1 million. I'm going to talk about how beautiful you all were to receive me and let me share my story. In the darkest moments, you still have something to live for. You still have something to live for.
You're really an inspiration. I appreciate you very much. I appreciate you sharing your stories. If anyone wants more information about Sweet Charlotte's, or what about the book? Where can they get the book?
Right through my website, sweetcharlottes.org.
Okay.
You can email me at sweetcharlottes@yahoo.com. You can find
Email
me.
sweetcharlottes@yahoo.com. Website is sweetcharlottes.org.
You got it.
I could find out about the book. I could find out about getting my child into there. I could find out about the future books you're going to write about.
Sure.
Are there any other platforms you use to spread some of your messaging, which I think is
Instagram.
really... Instagram?
Thank you. Instagram and Facebook.
Okay, they can find you on Instagram
They
and
sure
Facebook.
can.
Okay, would it be under your name or is it under Sweet Charlotte's?
Sweet Charlotte's.
All right, Sweet Charlotte's it is. Inspirational, incredible. You're a great woman. I really appreciate you coming on the show. I appreciate what you do.
Thank you.
Appreciate what you do for your family and what you're doing for all these other families too.
Thank you.
That's it for this episode of Sidewalk Talk. Any other episodes, if you want to watch them, you can watch them at shovelthesidewalk.com. They're all listed there. You can also go to our website, shovelthesidewalk.com, if you would like to be a guest on the show, and if you have a story that you want to share that you think it could help others in the Western New York community, whether it's in business or in personal life, email us from the website, and we'll be sure to help you tell your story as well. That's it for this episode. Until next time, I'm Steve Fortunato.